Okay, I'm Cole, and this is my video for my learning journey for sustainable venture development. And I thought I would just make a nice little presentation on why somebody should take sustainable venture development, since I very much enjoyed it, and I think it would be just nice to convey why I think it's beneficial to take a class. We'll start here. Okay, so before SVD, sustainable venture development, I had a very generic understanding of what a sustainable venture was. It was very generic. In reality, it's actually way bigger than just the environment. And through this class, I definitely learned that. So there's two key definitions that we talked about in the class, and that's sustainable innovations. And then after we learned about sustainable innovations for about the first half of the class, then we talked about sustainable ventures. So I would define a sustainable innovation as some sort of development and experimentation with new ideas that's positively impacted the environment, has the capability to positively impact the environment, social structure, something that benefits humans on Earth, makes society better. They can be little innovations, they can be really big scaled innovations, and they can impact social issues, economic issues, and environmental issues. Any of those are considered sustainable issues. And then sustainable ventures are any sort of like a business model that is around one of these sustainable innovations. So my personal insights that I gained from this class. So my number one takeaway would be that the most important thing in a successful venture is creating value for all parties involved. There's typically two parties. There's the beneficiaries and there's the customers. Oftentimes, depends on the situation. A lot of times the beneficiary cannot pay for the product, or money isn't really in the equation for them, or it's very limited. So you often have to have a combination of something that interests and piques a consumer, but also through that business, then you go through and help out the beneficiary. So you're often kind of the middleman between two different parties. Ideally, it's great if the customer, consumer, and the beneficiary are the same group, but oftentimes it just works out that they're two separate groups and you have to kind of work to connect them and bring them together. The next takeaway I wanted to talk about is the importance of creating dignity and empowering the marginalized communities that are impacted. So oftentimes these are the beneficiaries that we're talking about with these ventures. And it's important to have empathy. You know, we worked on creating empathy maps in class to figure out what the real issues are, and to understand and put ourselves in these communities' perspectives and to learn about their lives. And it's important when you're making a venture and innovations to keep that in mind, so that you can be coming from a point of view where you are helping them to empower themselves. So then the next takeaway that I want to talk about is my leadership style that I discovered. I would say that I would relate most to, we talked about a couple of leadership styles, environmentally speaking, and I would say the individualist manager is probably where I would lean. It was, it's about kind of going against the grain and creative thinking. And myself, I am a half engineering program major, half business, half engineering. So my mind is always on, what's new processes that we can make, different ways of thinking, how can we create efficiency and reduce waste. So my mind has already kind of always been geared towards that element of sustainability. That said, I do think I slightly lean towards achiever manager too, only because, it's great to be a dreamer and think outside of the box and have all sorts of wild ideas, but you got to pick and choose your battles. And sometimes it's something that's better off being put in the backlog, worked on in some sort of other later sprint. And, if I had to do it again, the number one insight that I took away from the class would be that we should have spent more time actually learning the root causes, kind of going back to the dignity and empathy map importance. My brain immediately, as soon as I get given a problem, I'm like, how can we fix it? How can we make it better? It's just the engineering part in me. But it really is beneficial to have all of the angles explored and understood, because you can make a solution, but if it doesn't tackle several root causes or truly tackle what's causing the problem to begin with, you did all that work and it doesn't really add up to much. So I think we could have had an even better project if we had spent and devoted a lot more time to understanding it more instead of, I think we kind of went with, we just kind of trusted Google on the most common issues and stuff that we were seeing. We didn't do that much in-depth like research with, watching videos of communities impacted and like trying to find like testimonies of first person details of what's going on. And it would be better. It's better in any scenario to just put a lot more research into it than you think. And now I wanted to talk about the skills I've gained from this class. General teamwork, lots of skills organizing a project. You get that from lots of classes, this class included. During the festival, we had to give a pitch and pitch our project, and that allowed us to focus, allowed us to practice using emotions and, thinking about ethos, pathos, logos, like how to make something appealing to people and simplify and convey this is a complicated thing, but we've only got 2 minutes. How can we pick the key points to convey in a short amount of time and convince a crowd of people that this is a cool project that they should look into further and maybe support us on. So that was a cool experience that we got to do in the middle of Jib's lobby. I definitely feel prepared to tackle any sort of scenario. Like if I ever get put in any sort of scenario in my future in classes when I go back home in my future job, I feel prepared to handle these types of scenarios, and I can be a leader in sustainability movements. If the CEO asked me, I would talk about how I have extensive experience identifying sustainable issues. I would talk about this class. I would talk about how oftentimes sustainable ventures feel daunting and like they cost a lot of money, but in the long run, they actually can save you money. Yeah, I would feel confident like if there was a problem in some sort of like a company, in some company that I'm working in, if coming up with some sort of like a creative solution from a sustainable perspective to fix it that people wouldn't even think about. I really liked the biomimicry stuff that we talked about and how oftentimes nature has already pushed the boundaries of what's possible and come up with the best designs. And it's just kind of up to us to look at it, figure out what we can take away from that and try to implement ourselves. So, that's all good inspiration, but in general, because there's so many aspects to sustainability, and oftentimes sustainable issues are, like I said, the most long-term best solutions and best return on investment. My brain is going to definitely go to that realm of how can we handle this from a sustainable perspective now, whenever I'm given a problem to solve. That's going to be something that just comes to mind. And then, the fun stuff. So we got to make a real life model of, we had to try to create a model to briefly showcase what our design was for all sorts of, in class. It was super hands-on, interactive. We were constantly in seminars, working in teams, talking, and the professor came over and always was coaching us and giving us tips. And it was very infrequently a sit down and just lecture, like memorize all this info. It was okay. Whenever there was lecture, it was because we're going to be using this either in the next class or like in the next hour, we're going to be actually sitting down and trying to implement this, which was really nice and a good change of pace because like I've never really taken a class like that before. We stood up a lot, we were on the whiteboards, failing a lot, like sometimes failing really bad. And the professor would come over and give us, throw us a lifeline, be like, no, you should be thinking about this a different way. Like you're missing the bigger picture here. And it was, you learn through failing. And that was a good way to do that in class. Yeah. So thank you. If some student is ever watching this, wondering if they should take the class, I think it's worth it. I'm absolutely going to take these lessons back with me for the rest of my life. And I really enjoyed my time here. So you should definitely take it. Yeah, recommend. Okay, thank you. Bye.